First contact fears. These humans are truly that dangerous? Asked junior diplomat Vexala, her crystalline body refracting the soft blue light of the observation deck. They look so fragile. Senior Ambassador Jotol sighed, all four of his eyes blinking in sequence, a gesture that his species used to indicate grave seriousness. His purple skin darkened slightly as he recalled his first encounter with the species in question. That is precisely why they are quarantined behind a military blockade that spans their entire solar system, he replied, gesturing toward the holographic display showing Earth, a swirling blue and green marble suspended in the blackness of space. The most dangerous predator is often the one you underestimate. Vexala's crystalline form shimmered skeptically. She had been assigned to the Human Diplomatic Initiative after rising quickly through the ranks of the Galactic Council's Foreign Relations Division. Many considered the assignment a punishment rather than a promotion. With respect, Ambassador, I studied their physiological profiles. No natural armor, dull senses, limited regenerative capabilities, and pitifully short lifespans. The Croton hatchlings in my brood colony could overpower a human adult. Jotol's mouth tentacles curled in what Vexala had learned was amusement. He tapped a sequence into the control panel, and the observation deck darkened. Computer, access historical file H17. Classification. Xenobiological threat assessment. Authorization. Jotol Prime. The room illuminated with a three-dimensional star map of the known galaxy. Thousands of pinpoints of light represented the sprawling civilization of the United Galactic Council -177 spacefaring species living in relative harmony across 17 spiral arms. What you're seeing is the galaxy as it existed approximately 120 standard cycles ago, Jotol explained. Notice the distribution of sentient civilizations. Vexala studied the map with her multifaceted eyes. The expansion patterns followed logical progressions, species claiming nearby habitable systems, establishing trade routes based on resource availability, and maintaining buffer zones with potential competitors. Now, observe what happens when we add humanity to the equation. A small blue dot appeared in an unremarkable arm of the galaxy. It pulsed gently, barely visible among the thousands of other civilizations. Computer, advanced timeline. Standard progression. The map shifted, civilizations expanding their territories in natural patterns of growth and occasional conflict. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the blue dot began to pulse more intensely. Cycle 3047. First contact between humanity and the Trizarian hegemony, announced the computer. The Trizarians. Vexala's crystalline form vibrated in recognition. Weren't they the biomechanical collective that dominated the Orion Spur? Precisely. Jotol's tone grew solemn. A civilization that had maintained stability for over 9,000 cycles. Technological marvels, strategic brilliance, numerical superiority. What happened to them? I don't recall ever meeting a Trizarian diplomat. Vexala fell silent as the hologram showed the blue pulse suddenly expand, engulfing the entire Trizarian territory in less than a single cycle. The first interspecies war lasted exactly 11 standard months, Jotol continued. The Trizarians detected a human exploration vessel near their territory, attempted to assimilate it as per their standard protocol, and 11 months. Vexala's voice had lost its earlier confidence. That's impossible. No species could defeat the Trizarians that quickly. The humans call it the Pearl Harbor effect. When surprised with an attack, they don't merely retaliate. They eliminate what they perceive as an existential threat with extreme prejudice. But the Trizarians had planetary defenses, quantum-phased shields, and swarm intelligence. What could humans possibly have that would overcome such advantages? Jotol tapped another command sequence. Computer, display archived footage. Battle of Trizaria Prime. The footage was grainy, clearly captured from a distance by a neutral observation vessel. A massive Trizarian heavship, a structure the size of a small moon, hung in space, surrounded by a defensive fleet of thousands. Approaching it was a single human vessel, so small it was barely visible against the backdrop of stars. "This is absurd," Vexilla scoffed. "One ship against the Trazarian command node. This must be propaganda." "Just watch," Jotol replied quietly. The human vessel accelerated suddenly, not toward the high ship, but into a seemingly random vector. "They're retreating." "At least they showed some wisdom," Vexilla observed. Jotol said nothing. Then, without warning, the human ship vanished. 1 second later, it reappeared inside the Trazarian Hivship's shield perimeter. 2 seconds after that, the high ship exploded from within, the chain reaction taking out most of its support fleet in the blast wave. Vexilla's crystalline form paled to a translucent white, a physiological reaction indicating shock. That's impossible. No species has mastered short-range precision, FTL jumps. The energy requirements alone ruled. The humans call it a hyperspace microjump. Jotol interrupted. They developed it specifically for this battle after studying Trazarian shield frequencies for approximately 72 hours. 3 days to counter technology that took the Trazarians millennia to perfect. Vexilla could barely process the information. "That's humanity for you." Jotol's upper eyes narrowed. "They don't think like other species. While we spend generations perfecting a technology, they'll cobble together a deadly effective countermeasure using what they call duct tape and WD-40. Surely this was an isolated incident. A fortunate accident. Computer, advanced timeline. Display expansion pattern alpha. The star map resumed its movement. The blue pulse that represented humanity began to spread rapidly, not in the usual pattern of colonial expansion, but in strange, unpredictable bursts. After defeating the Trazarians, humanity was approached by the Galactic Council of that era with an offer of membership. Jotol continued. They accepted, but with conditions. They wanted access to all technological databases, unrestricted trade rights, and the freedom to establish colonies anywhere outside existing territories. And the Council agreed. Vexilla sounded incredulous. After witnessing what happened to the Trazarians, absolutely. The timeline continued its progression. For several decades, the blue pulse remained relatively contained, expanding slowly along traditional colonial patterns. They settled down, became civilized, Vexilla observed, relief evident in her voice. That's what everyone thought. Until the Proxima incident. The hologram shifted to display a binary star system with several habitable planets. Proxima Centauri was one of humanity's first extrasolar colonies, Jotol explained. Small population, mostly researchers and their families. The Drax Imperium. He pointed to a yellow zone several light-years distant, had been experiencing internal conflicts. A rogue Drax warlord decided an easy victory over a human outpost would solidify his political position. Logical strategy, Vexilla nodded. Quick victory, minimal losses, maximum propaganda value. That's exactly what the warlord thought. His fleet arrived at Proxima, expecting minimal resistance from a scientific outpost. What they found instead was... Jotol paused. Computer, display Proxima Defense Force, engagement delta. The hologram shifted to show what appeared to be ordinary human civilians, researchers, engineers, even what looked like juvenile offspring, arming themselves with a hodgepodge of weapons, some clearly improvised from scientific equipment. "What are they doing?" Vexilla asked, leaning closer to the display. "Those aren't soldiers. They're not even wearing proper armor." That's what the Drax thought too. They landed a contingent of elite troops expecting immediate surrender. The footage continued. The humans, instead of cowering or attempting to negotiate, immediately launched a coordinated guerrilla campaign against the vastly superior Drax forces. The recording showed humans of all ages setting traps, creating improvised explosive devices, and even engaging in hand-to-hand combat with armored Drax warriors twice their size. This is unexpected, Vexala admitted, her earlier skepticism fading. But surely they were eventually overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. That would be the logical outcome. That would indeed be the logical outcome, Jotul agreed, if humanity followed the same logic as the rest of us. Computer, display Sol System Military Response Alpha. The hologram shifted back to the star map, focusing on Earth, humanity's homeworld. As they watched, thousands of vessels of all shapes and sizes began launching from planets, moons, and space stations throughout the system. What you're seeing is humanity's response to the news of the Proxima attack, Jotul explained. Notice anything unusual? Vexala studied the chaotic launch pattern. These aren't military formations. They're completely disorganized. Mining vessels, scientific ships, private transports. Are those civilian craft? Every ship capable of reaching Proxima was immediately retrofitted for combat. Miners became troop transports. Research vessels became improvised weapon platforms. Private yachts carried special forces teams. But this is madness. No species commits its entire industrial and civilian infrastructure to a military response. The economic damage alone would. The humans have a concept they call total war, Jotul interrupted. When threatened, they don't calculate economic trade-offs or diplomatic consequences. They simply commit everything they have to the fight. The hologram showed the Galactic human fleet arriving at Proxima and engaging the Drax forces. Despite their technological disadvantage, the humans fought with a ferocity that bordered on suicidal. Ships deliberately ramming Drax cruisers, civilian vessels flying directly into weapons fire to provide cover for other craft. This isn't warfare, Vexala whispered, her earlier confidence completely gone. This is insanity. The Drax thought so too. They retreated after losing half their fleet, expecting the humans to celebrate their victory and return to normal operations. A reasonable assumption, and completely wrong. Computer, display Drax Empire, human counteroffensive. The star map zoomed out to show the entire Drax territory. The blue pulse that represented humanity suddenly surged forward, not just toward the warlord's holdings, but toward the entire Drax civilization. The humans didn't stop after defending Proxima, Jotul continued. They declared war on the entire Drax Empire, even though the central government had officially disavowed the warlord's actions. But that's disproportionate, irrational. Welcome to humanity's approach to conflict. They have a saying, the best defense is a good offense. Once provoked, they don't simply respond to the immediate threat. They eliminate any possibility of future threats from the same source. The hologram showed the systematic dismantling of the once mighty Drax Empire over the course of just 2 stellar cycles. Planet after planet fell to the human onslaught, not through superior technology, but through what appeared to be sheer, relentless determination. The Council had to intervene, Jotul said, his voice solemn. Not to protect the Drax, but to protect humanity from itself. The resource drain of their total war approach was pushing their civilization toward collapse, even as they continued to defeat the Drax at every turn. They would destroy themselves to destroy their enemy. Vexala couldn't hide her shock. What evolutionary advantage could possibly come from such behavior? That's the question that has puzzled our xenobiologists for centuries. Computer, display human evolutionary combat assessment, Section 3. The hologram shifted to show a series of images from Earth's prehistoric past. Early humans, physically unimpressive compared to the megafauna surrounding them. Somehow not just surviving but thriving. Humans evolved on what many would consider a death world, Jotul explained. Not in the traditional sense of extreme environments or toxic atmospheres, but something perhaps more dangerous. A world of constant, unrelenting competition. All worlds have evolutionary competition, Vexala objected. Not like Earth. Most intelligent species evolve as either the dominant predator or as specialized defensive specialists, like your people with your crystalline exostructure. This creates evolutionary stability. You hunted or you defended, and your biology optimized accordingly. And humans didn't follow this pattern. Humans evolved as persistence predators. Neither the strongest nor the fastest, they survived by simply not stopping. They would chase prey animals that could easily outrun them for hours, even days, until the stronger, faster creature collapsed from exhaustion. The hologram showed primitive humans tracking large prey across vast distances, their bodies covered in sweat. Is that liquid some kind of toxin they secrete? Vexilla asked, indicating the sweating humans. No, that's their cooling system. Humans can regulate their body temperature through liquid evaporation, allowing them to remain physically active long after most species would overheat. Inefficient design, Vexilla scoffed, though with less conviction than before. Perhaps, but combined with their endurance and bizarre psychological makeup, it made them nature's perfect marathon hunters. And they've applied the same principles to warfare. They don't need to be the strongest or have the best technology. They just need to outlast you. The observation deck's lights gradually returned to normal levels as the historical program concluded. Vexilla remained silent, her earlier dismissiveness completely evaporated. So now you understand why we maintain the quarantine, Jotl said softly. Not out of fear, precisely, but out of respect for their particular evolutionary path. I still don't understand why they're considered the most dangerous, Vexilla finally responded. Yes, they're persistent and surprisingly militaristic for such physically unimposing creatures, but surely the Thargar with their plasma generation or the Nilax with their hive mind capabilities present greater threats. Jotl actually laughed, a sound Vexilla had never heard from the typically stoic diplomat. You still don't get it, do you? Computered, display first contact protocol, humanity. A new hologram appeared, showing a massive fleet of council vessels surrounding the Sol system in an impressive display of military might. This was the Council's approach when humanity first achieved faster-than-light capability, Jotl explained. Standard protocol for potentially aggressive species, show overwhelming force to establish peaceful relations from a position of strength. Sensible approach, Vexilla agreed. The humans called it. And this term has since entered diplomatic lexicon. A dick move. A what? Their exact words upon opening communications were, "That's a lot of firepower for a welcoming committee. Either you're compensating for something, or you're making the biggest mistake of your lives." They threatened the entire council fleet with their primitive technology. Oh, it gets better. When informed that the display was standard protocol and meant no harm, their response was to immediately begin broadcasting all their fictional entertainment about alien invasions throughout the fleet. I don't understand, Ambassador. The humans had created thousands of fictional scenarios about first contact with alien civilizations, and in the majority of these scenarios, they, the physically weaker, technologically inferior species, somehow defeated the technologically advanced aliens through what they called plucky determination and thinking outside the box. But those are just stories. That's what the Council admirals fought too. Then the humans casually mentioned that they had preemptively designed their FTL drive systems with a self-destruct capability that would create a cascading reaction through subspace, potentially destabilizing FTL travel within several light years. They wouldn't. The admiral in charge made the same assumption. The human representative smiled and said, "And this is now legendarily studied in diplomatic training. Maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't. But ask yourself this, are we the type of species that would blow ourselves up just to take you with us? Now that you've studied our history, what do you think?" Vexilla's crystalline form vibrated rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in her species. And the Council. The Council withdrew the fleet and established diplomatic relations immediately, Jotl confirmed. Subsequent analysis indicated that the human FTL drives weren't actually capable of what they described. They were bluffing. But why would they claim capabilities they didn't have? The deception would eventually be discovered. Because at that moment, it worked. That's how humans think. Solve the immediate problem now. Worry about long-term consequences later. And here's the truly terrifying part. When Council scientists later explained that the cascade effect the humans had described was theoretically impossible, do you know what they did? Vexillus form dimmed in dread. They developed the technology to make it possible. Within 5 years, they heard something was impossible, took it as a personal challenge, and made it reality. A reality that could have destabilized a significant portion of the galaxy if misused. That's why the quarantine was established, Vexilla realized. Not because humans are powerful now, but because of what they might become if left unchecked. Precisely. The Council's greatest fear isn't human aggression. It's human innovation driven by perceived necessity. Given time and sufficient motivation, they can turn theoretical concepts into apocalyptic weapons with terrifying efficiency. As the observation deck fell into silence, Earth continued to rotate peacefully in the holographic display, the quarantine shield barely visible as a shimmer surrounding the Sol system. Tomorrow, Jotol said quietly, you begin your assignment as our new liaison to the human containment zone. I trust you'll approach the role with appropriate caution. Vexilla's crystalline form had shifted to a deep blue, a color indicating profound contemplation in her species. I will, Ambassador, she replied, but I have one final question. Yes, if humans are so dangerous, why are we considering lifting the quarantine now? What's changed? Jotol's expression darkened, all 4 eyes focusing on the distant stars beyond the observation window. Because, Junior Diplomat Vexilla, something far worse than humanity has awakened in the galactic core, and we may need one monster to fight another. The adaptation paradox. The quarantine station orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa gleamed against the gas giant's swirling storms. It was the largest diplomatic installation the United Galactic Council had ever constructed, yet it existed for a single purpose: to contain and study the most unpredictable species ever encountered. Junior Diplomat Vexilla's crystalline form shimmered with nervous energy as the shuttle approached the massive structure. After Ambassador Zotol's briefing, she had spent 3 full cycles studying everything in the restricted human archives. The more she learned, the less she understood. Approaching Diplomatic Quarantine Station Epsilon, announced the pilot. Please prepare for docking procedures. Beside her, Science Officer Karax, a bulbous thinker-cased Moxarian with 12 sensory appendages, remained absorbed in his data tablet. The Council had assigned him as her technical advisor for this mission. Have you ever encountered a human before, Science Officer? Vexilla asked, attempting to mask her apprehension. Karax's skin rippled with greenish bioluminescence, a Moxarian expression of intellectual excitement. Only in controlled research settings, he replied, his translator converting the complex chemical signals his species used for communication. Fascinating specimens. Their neural architecture defies conventional categorization. Most paradoxical. In what way? Consider this data. Karax extended a sensory tendril, transferring information directly to the shuttle's holographic projector. A complex neural map appeared, pulsing with activity. This is a human brain responding to a survival threat. Notice the parallel processing capabilities, emotion centers, and logical centers activating simultaneously. Is that unusual? Vexilla asked. Unprecedented. Most advanced species evolve either toward pure logic or enhanced instinctual response. Humans maintain both and switch between them, or use them simultaneously, depending on the situation. The shuttle docked with a gentle shudder, and the decontamination sequence began. Standard protocol for any vessel entering or leaving the quarantine zone. Ambassador Jotol believes humans are dangerous because of their persistence and unpredictability. Vexilla observed, you seem to suggest there's more to it. Much more. Karax's bioluminescence intensified. It's what we call the adaptation paradox. Most species specialize to fit their environmental niche. The most successful adapt over thousands of generations through natural selection. And humans don't. Humans adapt without evolving. They change their environment rather than waiting for evolution to change them. When faced with cold, they didn't develop fur, they harnessed fire. When faced with predators, they didn't grow claws, they created weapons. The decontamination cycle completed, and the airlock hissed open. A delegation waited on the other side. A mixture of council security personnel and human representatives. Vexella recognized General Vokhtar, the station's Zenthari security chief, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the station lights. Beside him stood a human female, silver-streaked hair pulled back tightly, wearing what appeared to be a formal uniform adorned with colorful ribbons and metallic pins. Junior Diplomat Vexella, Science Officer Kirax, General Vokhtar rumbled, his massive claw making the traditional greeting gesture. Welcome to Station Epsilon. May I present Admiral Helena Chen, Human Diplomatic Liaison. The human stepped forward, her posture straight and composed. Vexella was struck by how unremarkable she appeared. After all the briefings and historical footage, she had expected something more visibly dangerous. Welcome to the edge of humanity's prison, Admiral Chen said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We've prepared comprehensive tours of our containment facility for your assessment visit. Vexella noted the subtle emphasis on prison and containment. Clearly, the human understood the true nature of the station despite the diplomatic veneer. Thank you, Admiral. I look forward to gaining a better understanding of human culture and capabilities. Of course, Admiral Chen replied smoothly. Though I should warn you, understanding humanity has been the downfall of several diplomatic careers. We're rather contradictory. So I've been informed, Vexella responded, attempting to maintain her diplomatic composure. Your first scheduled observation is our military training facility, General Vokhtar interjected, clearly trying to keep the exchange on formal ground. The Council is particularly interested in human combat methodologies. Admiral Chen's smile widened slightly. Yes, everyone's always fascinated by how we fight. Follow me. As they moved through the station's corridors, Vexella noticed a striking difference between this facility and other Council installations she had visited. Most Council architecture emphasized harmony and biological comfort. This station, by contrast, appeared designed for maximum security, reinforced bulkheads, redundant systems, and surveillance measures far beyond standard diplomatic protocols. They were containing the humans, not just observing them. Their first stop was an observation deck overlooking a massive training arena. Below, dozens of humans of various ages and physical types were engaged in what appeared to be combat exercises. Some fought with primitive physical weapons, blades and staffs, while others used what looked like training versions of energy weapons. This makes no sense, Vexella whispered to Kirax. Their technology is advanced enough for plasma-based weaponry, yet they still train with archaic-bladed implements. Kirax's sensory tendrils quivered with interest. The adaptation paradox in action. They don't discard old technologies when they develop new ones. They maintain proficiency across the technological spectrum. Admiral Chen, overhearing this exchange, turned toward them. Science Officer Kirax is correct. We have a saying, 2 is 1, and 1 is none. Redundancy is survival. But maintaining proficiency in obsolete combat forms is inefficient, Vexilla observed. Efficiency isn't always the goal, Admiral Chen replied. Adaptability is. Consider our history. On at least 6 occasions, human civilization experienced catastrophic setbacks that eliminated advanced technology. Each time, we rebuilt. The bottleneck theory, Kirax interjected, his bioluminescence pulsing with intellectual excitement. Humanity nearly went extinct multiple times, with their population reduced to mere thousands. Precisely, Admiral Chen confirmed. When your species faces extinction every few thousand years, you learn not to put all your eggs in one technological basket. Vexilla observed the training below more carefully. She noticed now that the exercises weren't just about combat techniques, but adaptability. The humans were being forced to switch weapons and tactics frequently, responding to changing scenarios with minimal transition time. Impressive, she admitted reluctantly. But raw combat capability isn't what makes a species truly dangerous in an interstellar context. Technological innovation is the true measure. Admiral Chen's expression shifted subtly. You're quite right, junior diplomat. Perhaps you'd like to see our research division next. The station's research wing was even more heavily secured than the combat arena. Multiple checkpoints, biometric scans, and armed guards, both human and council species, lined the approach. The security seems excessive for a diplomatic station, Vexilla observed. General Vokhtar's armored plates clicked nervously. The security measures are as much to protect the galaxy from human research as to protect the research itself. They entered a vast chamber divided into dozens of separate laboratories. In each, humans worked alongside specialized machines on projects ranging from the recognizable to the completely alien. Our researchers are permitted to continue their work under Council supervision, Admiral Chen explained. Any breakthrough must be reviewed by a Council committee before development can proceed. And do your people resent these restrictions? Vexilla asked. Admiral Chen laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Of course we do. But we understand their necessity. Our history is filled with examples of technologies developed faster than our wisdom to use them properly. They stopped at a laboratory where a team of humans was working on what appeared to be a small, swirling vortex contained within a complex field generator. What is this project? Kirax asked, his sensory appendages stretching toward the energy readings with evident fascination. Small-scale artificial gravity manipulation, Admiral Chen replied. In theory, it could revolutionize construction, medicine, and transportation. In theory, it could also create localized singularities capable of destroying planets. General Vokhtar added grimly. Any technology powerful enough to create is powerful enough to destroy, Admiral Chen said with a shrug. That's the human paradox the Council fears most. Our creativity and our destructiveness are two sides of the same coin. As they continued their tour, Vexilla noticed something unexpected. The human researchers didn't appear to be working in a linear, methodical fashion, typical of Council scientific protocols. Their approach seemed chaotic, collaborative, with frequent cross-disciplinary consultations and improvisational testing. Your research methodology seems unstructured, she observed. Kirax's bioluminescence flashed in what Vexilla had come to recognize as agreement. Human scientific progress doesn't follow standard innovation curves. They make conceptual leaps that defy conventional research progression. We call it thinking outside the box, Admiral Chen said. It's another survival adaptation. When conventional approaches fail, try something completely different. But scientific advancement requires methodical progression, Vexilla argued, building knowledge upon established foundations. Usually, yes, the Admiral conceded. But humanity's greatest breakthroughs often come from questioning those very foundations. When Einstein revolutionized physics, he didn't incrementally improve existing theories. He completely reimagined the nature of space and time. They approached another laboratory where human researchers appeared to be growing biological tissue in specialized containment fields. Xenobiological adaptation research, Admiral Chen explained before they could ask. Studying how human physiology could be modified to survive in environments that would normally be lethal. You're attempting to change your own biology. Vexilla couldn't hide her shock. Most species considered their biological form sacred or at least fixed. Change is survival, the Admiral replied simply. Earth taught us that lesson repeatedly. Species that can't adapt die. But Council regulations prohibit genetic self-modification, General Vokhtar interjected, his armored plates clicking in agitation. We're aware of the regulations, General, Admiral Chen replied coolly. This research is theoretical only. No implementation without Council approval. The tension between them was palpable, and Vexala was beginning to understand the fundamental conflict at the heart of humanity's quarantine. The very traits that made humans dangerous, their adaptability, their creative problem-solving, their willingness to transform themselves and their environment, were also what made them potentially valuable allies. Their tour concluded in a large observation lounge overlooking the Earth, a swirling blue-green jewel set against the blackness of space. The quarantine field was visible as a faint shimmer surrounding the entire solar system. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Admiral Chen said softly, gazing at her homeworld. 120 years we've been contained behind that barrier. 4 human generations born into a cage. A necessary precaution, General Vokhtar rumbled, though without conviction. "Perhaps initially," the Admiral conceded. "But I think you're beginning to see the irony." Junior diplomat Vexala. "The longer you keep us isolated, the more we adapt to overcome that isolation. It's what we do." Vexala's crystalline form shifted to a contemplative blue. Ambassador Jotol mentioned that the Council is considering lifting the quarantine. Why now, after all this time? Admiral Chen turned from the viewport, her expression suddenly grave. "Because the Void Scourge has awakened in the galactic core, and the Council's conventional defenses have proven inadequate." "The Void Scourge is classified information," General Vokhtar hissed. "This human should not." "The Void Scourge has consumed 17 Council worlds in the past cycle," Admiral Chen continued, ignoring the general. "Conventional weapons are useless against it. Conventional thinking has failed to contain it. The Council needs unconventional solutions. They need humanity," Karax concluded, his bioluminescence pulsing with realization. More specifically, Admiral Chen said with a grim smile, "They need the adaptation paradox. They need a species crazy enough to try what no rational species would consider. And that's why we're here," Vexala realized, "not just to evaluate lifting the quarantine, but to assess whether humanity can be aimed at the Scourge." "Like pointing a loaded weapon," Admiral Chen agreed. "The question, junior diplomat, isn't whether humanity is dangerous. We absolutely are. The question is whether our particular brand of dangerous is what the galaxy needs right now." As if to emphasize her point, an alert sounded from General Vokhtar's communication device. He checked it, his armored plates suddenly locking in what Vexala recognized as alarm. "Another Council world has gone silent," he reported grimly. "The Scourge is accelerating its advance." Admiral Chen turned back to the viewport, her reflection overlaid against the distant Earth. "Time is running out for cautious approaches," diplomat Vexala. "The Council has contained humanity because they fear what we might become. Perhaps now they should fear more what the galaxy will become without us."